Okay, be honest. If you're a parent or really anyone who's existed within a 5 mile radius of a toddler in the last decade, I know you're probably already groaning. That infamous do is probably looping in your head right this very second, right? It's the song that plays on your daily commute and echoes endlessly through your living room. But today, we're taking off our exhausted parent hats and we're putting on our marketing professor hats. Welcome to today's explainer.
We need to answer a genuinely fascinating question. How on earth did a public domain campfire chant, literally something kids sang in the woods decades ago, transform into a billion-dollar unicorn company? We are going to reframe this whole preschool dance craze as an absolute masterclass in global marketing, neurological design, and aggressive intellectual property monetization. Here's our syllabus for today. We'll cover the ultimate viral hook, the deep psychology behind the song, its global community reach, and exactly how you scale a unicorn empire. Then we'll wrap up with the inevitable copyright battles and our final marketing masterclass.
All right, Module 1, the ultimate viral hook. Let's trace how this went from a campfire to a screen. Okay, let's dive into this because the evolution of this intellectual property is actually wild. Baby Shark started as a simple public domain campfire chant way back in the 1900s. Campers would use their hands to mimic shark jaws, and the tune was heavily inspired by the looming, creeping suspense of movies like Jaws. Decades later, around 2011, a children's entertainer named Johnny Only released his own upbeat acoustic version. But the real explosion, the leap to a global phenomenon, happened when the South Korean educational brand Pinkfong uploaded their hyper-produced K-pop-inspired versions in 2015, which they followed up with the iconic dance version in 2016. Fast forward to 2021, and Pinkfong's parent company, Smart Study, achieved K-unicorn status. They became South Korea's 13th unicorn company, valued at over $1 billion. Moving right along to Module 2, Song Psychology. We're going to look at the brains and pedagogy behind the earworm. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the musical structure itself. The song is written in a simple 2/4 measure with a really fast, upbeat tempo. And scientific experts point out that this specific musical structure physically targets the brainstem and other ancient systems in our brain, which stimulates a massive release of dopamine. It is, quite literally, a calculated physiological trigger. By hacking the human brain's pleasure centers, especially when it's paired with movement, the song creates this intense feeling of joy that essentially demands endless repetition from its young listeners. But the neurological and cognitive design goes even deeper than just a catchy beat. The repetitive lyrics use familiar family terms, mommy, daddy, grandpa. That builds a positive, secure emotional connection for kids. And those visual hand motions? Actually, scratch that. They aren't just there to be annoying for parents. They are a brilliant pedagogical design principle. They actively support early childhood cognitive milestones and fine motor skills. This whole combination acts as a universal language. It means toddlers anywhere can understand and participate, making it an incredible tool for young language learners globally, easily bridging profound cultural barriers. Which brings us to Module 3, Community and Global Reach. How exactly did this become a truly worldwide phenomenon? Just take a second and look at this staggering number. By June 2025, the 2016 Baby Shark dance video surpassed 16 billion views on YouTube. 16 billion! That number absolutely dwarfs the entire global human population. It's the most watched YouTube video in human history. But listen, it didn't get there through passive watching alone. It was driven by massive digital communities sharing, memeing, and participating at an entirely unprecedented scale. What's really fascinating from a data perspective is how audience engagement differs so drastically across regions and platforms. For instance, the United States leads in watch time on connected TVs. Why? Well, because in those regions, it's a communal living room activity. Meanwhile, Indonesia leads in watch time on mobile devices, where it basically serves as an on-the-go digital babysitter on smartphones. And yet, viewers in Brazil actually drove the highest number of likes. It just goes to show that engagement takes many different forms across borders, creating a truly borderless campaign. And Pinkfong didn't just rely on the universal language of melody. They strategically produced localized versions of the song in 25 different languages. This strategic localization, combined with key educational partnerships in various regions, is how they managed to unite families across over 200 countries and regions. That's what fueled their unmatched global reach. All right, Module 4, Scaling a Unicorn Empire. Let's look at the unicorn model and the heavy-hitting business metrics. So it all started with community participation, right? Things like the hashtag Baby Shark Challenge, which resulted in users uploading over 100,000 fan videos. But instead of issuing takedowns for those videos, Pinkfong capitalized on them using YouTube's Content ID system. This digital fingerprinting allowed them to identify user-generated videos that used their song and then claim the ad revenue from them. They essentially weaponized their audience into a massive, decentralized marketing and production team, siphoning incredible new passive revenue streams.
And they also demonstrated some seriously brilliant brand agility. During the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, they released a specialized wash your hands adaptation. And this wasn't just a cheap PR stunt. It kept the brand highly relevant by teaching children basic, essential hygiene habits during a global crisis, which further cemented their role in early childhood education. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer volume of business-to-business deals that formed the core of their billion-dollar valuation. Smart Study didn't just sell ads. They signed over 2,000 intellectual property licensing contracts with roughly 500 major companies worldwide. This aggressive licensing strategy is exactly what transforms a viral internet hit into a certified K-unicorn. They built a sprawling global ecosystem. Just think about the absurdity of this scale for a second. A simple campfire song evolved into live interactive family concerts touring globally. It became a Nickelodeon animated TV series called Baby Shark's Big Show. They signed merchandising deals that put Baby Shark on a Kellogg's berry-flavored cereal. They even launched immersive 8K LED exhibitions at the Outernet in London. It evolved far, far beyond a simple YouTube video into an omnipresent lifestyle brand. Module 5, the copyright battle. Because what happens when public domain IP generates billions? Litigation. Back in 2019, Jonathan Johnny Only Wright, that New York children's entertainer we mentioned earlier, he sued Pinkfong for plagiarism in South Korea. He claimed Pinkfong infringed on his 2011 version by copying his specific arrangement, rhythm, and tempo. Pinkfong, defending their massive empire, argued that their incredibly successful song was simply a unique recreation of that traditional public domain campfire chant. So, what was the verdict? Well, the South Korean courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, ruled against Wright. They determined that because the original chant was public domain, it literally belongs to everyone, Pinkfong's specific combination of bright animation, hyper-produced music, and choreography was deemed sufficiently original to be eligible for protection on its own. It's a massive lesson in global IP law. If you're going to rely on public domain works, you absolutely must add highly distinctive, original layers to protect your multi-billion-dollar brand. Finally, Module 6, the Marketing Masterclass and Brand Strategy. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because despite this staggering success, there's a massive financial risk here, an over-reliance on a single IP. As of last year, the Baby Shark family of characters accounted for a hefty 77% of Pinkfong's total revenue. To mitigate this huge risk, they are heavily leveraging data and AI to rapidly test and launch new shows, like Bebefin. Bebefin currently accounts for about 15% of their revenue, but it's growing fast, as they desperately try to prove they are a sustainable content factory, and not just a one-hit wonder. Which leaves us with a provocative question for all you marketers out there. We've seen how a catchy public domain tune, combined with precise neurological design, insane user-generated momentum, and aggressive global licensing, can create a billion-dollar empire that transcends culture and language entirely. So what does this all mean for the future? What will be the next cultural touchstone? Because as Pinkfong unequivocally proved, the next global multi-billion-dollar phenomenon might just be one single upload away. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.